friends. It's almost midnight, and you've found your way to the PikeCast. Come along as we careen through the catalog of the most formative horror writer of our young adult days, Christopher Pike. From adult perspectives, we'll revisit these YA books our parents probably would never have let us read had they known what lie inside. We tackle one book per episode in a freewheeling and unbiased chat. So grab your battered paperback, pull the flashlight from the kitchen drawer, climb under your bed covers, and devour a good book with us. Greetings, fellow Pikers, and welcome to the PikeCast. I'm Cooper Beckett, and I'm thrilled to be joined by my lovely co-hosts.
Hello, I'm Cassie.
Hi, I'm Becca.
Today, we are digging into Christopher Pike's 1995 book, The Lost Mind, and we're going to be dissecting it in great detail, spoiling each and every plot twist, so consider yourself warned. If you're enjoying the PikeCast, please leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. Let's welcome our guest piker this week, award-winning horror film theorist and analyst turned screenwriter, and co-host of the podcast, This Ends at Prom, BJ Colangelo. Delighted to have you join us, BJ.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that something I was super into in 7th grade was going to have a payoff.
Well, all the awesome from the past is now the future.
That's very true.
Everything is nostalgia now. It's pretty great. It's pretty great.
I'm just glad the nostalgia needle is finally moving past 1986. We've been stuck there for the last 15 years, and I'm like, where is my 2001 period piece? Where is it?
It's like the millennial thing. Nobody actually has any idea how old millennials are or what we just, it's like a 20-year generation for some reason. It's weird.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a account on TikTok that I follow because I'm an adult.
You're
on
TikTok. Wow.
I am. Wow. And there is a guy that'll say like, "Hey, you like this song? This song is 16 years old. Do you want to know what you would have thought this song was about the time this came out?" They did one with "Sugar We're Going Down" by Fall Out Boy, and They were like, when that came out, if you would have thought of a song as old then as it is now, you would have been thinking about songs from 1989. You're like, oh my God, I have immediately crumbled into dust.
Yeah, it's fucked up, honestly. Like when I was growing up, my parents were very into oldies, and my music taste was 100% fomented by theirs. So I listened to the oldies station, which was playing the 60s. In 1990, and now we are 30 years beyond that. So the music I listened to in 1990 is now as old as 1990.
Yeah. Yeah, the internet has really skewed our perception of time. Like, time is nothing. And then throw the pandemic in there, like, it's meaningless. Nothing matters.
Well, yes. We did officially lose a year. So, yeah, that's great. This is just the kind of upbeat and happy intro you come to expect from the PikeCast. Why don't we move in and have Becca? We have some questions that we'd like to ask all our guests, and Becca is going to start that.
Yeah. So how did you discover Pike?
I discovered Pike in the 7th grade because we were assigned the novel version of I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I was furious that the book was not the same as the movie. Okay. And my teacher was like, "Oh, is that something that you're really into, or like these horror books?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I wanted. I thought this was going to be a horror book." And she's like, "Okay, well, here's Fear Street and here's Christopher Pike." And I was like, "Okay." And then because I was an avid reader as a kid, I was definitely a gifted reader. I consumed as much of it as I possibly could in like a 2-year span, just like binge read all of it. And, the books have pretty big font, like you can crank them out pretty easily. So I read all of them and then revisited like here and there throughout my life. But for the most part, like it was a time capsule of my junior high experience.
Very nice.
I have to say, every time I hear the words "I know what you did last summer" book version, my blood boils. It's like my least favorite thing in this entire world. Like, I was so bummed when I read it.
Right? Like, how do you have that kind of title and then the book is just so dull?
Right. And
Well,
it's crazy
that's
because she
what
hates
books
the
were
movie.
like back then, sometimes. It's not her fault the movie was different.
She absolutely, like, Lois Duncan, that's her name, right?
Right,
Yeah.
Okay, she, like, hated the movie. And I'm like, well, bitch, I hate your book. Okay, sorry, that was me.
Wow, that's out of nowhere, major slam on Lois Duncan.
I've never read anything else by her, but that book was so, like, grr.
I just think that she's really bitter that like they made a movie that's so much more fun than that book is, and I think she's just bitter about it.
That salty woman. So what is the thing that keeps Christopher Pike on your mind?
I have such a strong affinity for YA content that is not pandering to teenagers, I guess is the best way that I can put it. Because I think that any media that we have, whether it be film, literature, music, whatever, if it's meant for teenagers, and specifically, I think Pike's books tend to lean towards like teen girl more than anything. Culturally, we write them off as like this is immediately trash or this is devoid of any merit, despite the fact that the stuff that we consume when we are young adults or when we are teenagers have a really strong impact on the way that we navigate the world as we get older. I think there's probably a direct line between women who read a lot of Pike when they were young and now are like addicted to true crime podcasts.
Oh yeah, I think so.
I think like there's a direct correlation there, and we don't ever want to analyze the stuff that we watch when we're younger or the things that we read when we're younger because we're like, ugh, it's not The Godfather, it doesn't matter. Like, no, it does matter, and it's really important. And Pike kind of just hits that sweet spot for me of I can look at it and go, this is when I was learning different forms of storytelling and telling different horror stories or different mysteries, but at an age where I didn't have to like steal my mom's Stephen King books off of the nightstand. Like this, it felt like it was meant for me, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what would you consider to be your favorite Christopher Pike books?
Oh, goodness. I feel like that's like asking me to choose between children. And I don't even have children, so I don't even know if that's like...
Well, we are asking you to make a Sophie's choice here. This is the ones that don't get picked by you will die.
Oh.
Yeah. I know that Whisper of Death and Die Softly were two that really stuck with me growing up. I think those are kind of the heavy hitters for most people.
Yeah.
I think those tend to show up on like the best Christopher Pike lists pretty frequently. But I gotta admit, like The Lost Mind is one that really challenged me, and I will say that I think that this is one of his weaker books. But reading this one when I was younger and having to really think about like a metaphysical story in real life was kind of eye-opening for me because I had never really at that time read anything that dealt with metaphysical presences or souls or whatever outside of like a ghost story or a demon possession. Because I think also a lot of the stuff, especially in horror, that we deal with that has to deal with like possession stories are very like Christian and Catholic rooted.
Yeah.
And this one isn't. Doesn't mean that it's not problematic as hell.
Oh yeah.
But, but it was something different. I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And it definitely stuck with me.
And that is something that I think we've really recognized with Pike. He doesn't always do it in the smoothest or most sensitive fashion, but he is definitely trying to expose his readers to other cultures, to other mythologies, to other religious extended histories, like not even current religion, but the origins of religion. And it's really a noble pursuit, as many times as he falls on his face with it.
I agree completely. And I think given that so many of his books, we're looking at a time where we weren't having a lot of these cultural sensitivity conversations the way we are now. So it's, you can almost look at these books as kind of a time capsule of where we were at culturally. What conversations were we having? What was being deemed acceptable? What was it being encouraged to talk about? And you can't erase that in favor of looking at things through a modern lens, because that's just not how we were. It doesn't excuse it or make it, acceptable. Like, oh, of course it's fine that he did this like racist Egyptian sort of storyline. It's not fine. It wasn't fine when he did it. But to say that we knew that it was not fine at that time is just inaccurate.
Right. Well, why don't we move into Magic Fire, where we start by talking about the aesthetics of the book itself. And Cassie is going to read the back of the book this week.
She didn't know what she had done. She awoke in the woods beside a dead body. There was a knife in her hand, blood on her clothes. Had she killed the young woman who lay beside her? She couldn't remember. She couldn't remember anything, not even her own name. It was as if someone had stolen her mind, stolen her soul. Dun, dun, dun.
That is a very succinct little back of the book.
Yeah, it's
Usually
very short.
They go on far longer. And very accurate. Without telling us too much about the story.
It's funny because it gives it away completely. Like,
it totally
her
does.
soul, basically, or her personality, and like I didn't even put that together until just now.
And this is so the version of the book I have is one of those with the Pike letters cut out on the front and the artwork inside, which is weird, I think. But what do you all think?
Mine doesn't have the letters cut out. It's like printed on it, because I think I have like the not bougie version of it where they actually did the like laser cutout of the letter. But when you open it, it's the image. And what was so interesting is when I opened it, the first thought that I had in my head was the image from the movie It Follows, when you get the opening reveal of the woman whose leg is like going in the wrong direction. It feels like kind of like the precursor to that image. And it was I had like a very visceral reaction to it because of that association.
I mean, it's a very cool piece of artwork, and I feel like it fits nicely with the story. It's just weird to me that they would hide that artwork beyond another page.
Well, maybe because there's blood and they didn't want like super bloody cover.
That could be. But it also could just be that weird aesthetic thing that they were doing.
I just think they were being fancy with it. That's all.
Could be. But when you judge a book by the cover, which we all do, you like the cover to actually have something on it. This one, you have to pick it up in order to see the artwork, which I guess once you've picked it up, you're already halfway toward buying it.
That's a really good point.
It's interesting because this era of Pike skews in that direction. And it's sort of between eras, because then the later ones go back to the lurid covers with the Pike 2.0 font. But we're sort of in a middling area here with the artwork.
That's really interesting to think about.
My question is the symbol on the tree supposed to mean something to me? Did I miss something?
I was wondering that too, but I don't think it does actually mean anything.
So I thought it was supposed to be because he was the demon and the dead girl, Crystal, is the angel. So I thought it was supposed to be like a demon symbol.
Oh,
I
mean, you could also say a triangle because there's three of them. So it's a literal triangle.
That's what I was looking at, is like this is some sort of like symbology for like a trinity without it being like a Christian trinity.
Yeah.
So it's
I just realized there were eyeballs in there too.
Oh, in the background. Yeah, look at that.
I didn't even notice those before.
This is a very cool piece of art.
It is. It's Mark Garrow, the same one who did, I think, our last book.
Okay.
So it seems like he used those two main artists a lot.
Yeah. I like this. Yeah. And I feel like it does really reflect what we're getting inside this book, which, as we all know, is not often the case. Well, let's move on now. Let's go to the Midnight Club and discuss our characters. Starting with Blank / Jennifer Hobbs. This book, I gotta tell you, As the person who takes the notes and writes down all the character names and traits, this book was a fucking nightmare because every time a character is introduced, we have no idea who they are because names come much later in this book. So, I did my best, everybody. I did my best. Okay, so we start with Jennifer, our empty vessel of a character. And it's a bold move to do a full-on amnesia story that never leaves the amnesia part because she never regains her memory.
I really liked it, in all honesty. More so, I think, because I like the way that he handled it, where there was a lot of really minute details that Jennifer's paying attention to that, like, if I lost my memory, I wouldn't think to use my driver's license, get a map, go find this. Using all these context clues, I think I would have just like driven myself to a hospital and been like, I don't know what's happening to me.
I may have killed someone and I don't remember anything.
Right. But I also am a person who just gets overwhelmed with guilt, and I absolutely snitch on myself all the time. But I thought that the journey of Jenny trying to put together the pieces of her world were really interesting. Like, oh, I think this must be my mom, or I think this, I know this person? Oh no, that may have been my best friend. I don't know. And I like that it's presented where nothing that Jenny discovers is ever really trustworthy. Like everything is unreliable because of the amnesia. And it's interesting to have an unreliable narrator where they are literally unreliable. Like, it's not just a plot point.
Yeah, right. Because they don't know either. They know as much as we know as the readers. Yeah, I really, I hesitate with any plot involving amnesia because it is such a trite major plot point. But when you look at it as the mind has just been, if we want to take what Amir says at face value as her mind has literally just been removed and jettisoned. So she's not really an amnesiac. So we don't have to go with traditional medical amnesia, which is good because that's bullshit. Shit.
I like that it plays with amnesia, but doesn't remove the idea of like muscle memory. Like, she still knows how to drive a car. She knows how to like function. She knows how to speak. Like, she hasn't lost her ability to know how to do things, which I thought was really interesting because a lot of times you'll get people that are like, what is this automobile? I don't know what this is. And with this, it just seems like somebody who's kind of been running on autopilot and just has really lost what makes them, which I think goes into the idea of like the lost mind, or the back of the book, like a lost soul. And that makes more sense to me than just like amnesia.
Well, I've got some. So what's interesting, like going off what you said there, BJ, is she knows certain things that she likes, and she sums them up with "I like food, music, sex, being warm." She's got this great little snarky attitude with all of this, and I do enjoy that quite a bit. Here's some description for her. My hair was brown, long, fine as a child's. My eyes were also brown, innocent and clear, except for the bloodshot that stained the corners. I appeared to be intelligent. Like the dead girls, my lips were full. I was attractive, but not beautiful by any stretch of the imagination, which is one of those traits she shares with many of Pike's heroines. Attractive, but not beautiful.
That is just every like female protagonist in any teen property. It's like, we're going to make a shell so that you can insert yourself into this identity as easily as possible.
Yeah, because if you don't think of yourself as beautiful, you don't want to read about a beautiful person. She also, this I really enjoyed. My favorite band seemed to be U2. There was a picture of the lead singer, Bono, on my desk. It was personally signed.
That part made me laugh when I read it. I was like, wait, that's wild.
I think it's hard for me to think of a time when like teenagers were super into U2. Like, I think the entirety of my existence, they've always been like a dad band.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought too. That's why I was like, what teenage girl's in her room? Like, oh my God, Bono. Please.
Isn't that also the subplot of Taken? Isn't that how she ends up in Europe? Is because they're following U2 around?
Is that true?
I'm almost positive that's
good
like
God, I don't
Liam
remember why
Neeson's
she was in
daughter is
Europe.
following U2, and like that's why they're going to Europe.
Oh Jesus!
I'm gonna be honest. I just remember that phone scene more than anything else.
Well, yeah, I mean that's have seen the movies or not. That phone scene is right in there.
That's so funny.
She also is happy because there are some classics and some fantasy novels amid her cheap romances, because she's happy she's not a complete flake.
If she has no personality,
so
where does she get all this
judgmental.
judgment? Yeah, like where did this? And it's so bizarre because it's not learned. She doesn't know anything. Like, why does she feel this way? That was so weird to me.
You know why? Because convenience of the amnesia subplot. That's why.
I can remember that people who like romance novels are lame, and I am not like most girls. That's what I can remember.
Yeah. Now, my question is, did she remember that picture is of Bono? Or did she look and try to discern his signature? Or did she look at the U2 album on her desk, let's say, and look, oh, yeah, that's Bono. Okay. Because she remembers convenient things. That's what it is.
Yeah, she remembers she likes music, but then she even says, I don't know what music I like. But then she's like immediately,
Bono.
oh, I know U2. If
Yeah.
you remembered U2, wouldn't you remember you like U2? Like,
No, I think everybody remembers U2. That's just, they're one of those universals. It's just like, oh, yeah, U2, right.
that and that romance books are trashy, I guess.
Yeah, romance books are trashy, but they're classics, so she remembers the names of classic books. See, it's all, that's why amnesia is such a difficult plot point. Because literally it's all about convenience. Can she drive a car? Yes, because I need her to. Okay, let's move to Crystal Denger, who I kept referring to as Crystal Dagger or Crystal Danger, but Crystal Denger. Her hair was blonde. She appeared to be about 17 or 18. She was a pretty girl, or had been, with high cheekbones. Here's the Pike one: a large, sensuous mouth. He is all about large, sensuous mouths.
I really thought that sentence was going to end with a large nose.
No, a button nose.
And then I was like,
a
sensuous
button nose.
nose.
Giant mouth, teensy nose.
Aw, a little cute.
She had such beautiful blue eyes, blonde hair. I had seen both last night, covered in blood. My best friend.
The way that Crystal is described, I kept thinking about how they introduce Alicia Silverstone in The Crush, which is like the 14-year-old Lolita, because they do these like weirdly like invasive and like sensual shots of her mouth and her eyes and her hair. And like reading about Crystal, I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing here, Pike. I got it. It's the 90s. That's what we thought was acceptable then.
Honestly, BJ, until you just mentioned it now, I had completely forgotten about the movie The Crush. Completely. It had left my mind entirely. But now it's right there. That poster, her lips, the kind of like everything, just right there.
Sunglasses? Yeah.
Yeah, sunglasses.
I have such a weird fascination with that pocket of the 90s where we were like, do you know what's a really cool movie to make? Predatory adult men with teen girls, but they are the victims. The teen girls are the ones that are the dangerous ones.
Because that's Poison Ivy also, right?
Right. It's like, I'm like, they're 14. Please be an adult. My God.
Well, I mean, it's just the natural evolution from Fatal Attraction, because it's not about what's being done to these poor women. It's about how are we ruining this awful man's life because of his stupid decisions.
Yes.
Well, Crystal doesn't really have a part. So I don't know what more we want to say about Crystal, because she's a cipher here.
When it comes to all of the characters, though, I would have to say that she's my favorite. Like, we get to know her through the diary, and I felt like she was a lot nicer than good old Jennifer Hobbs.
Not only nicer, but she was about to throw shit down to defend her friend. Yeah.
I have so much empathy for Crystal, too, especially through the diary entries, because you can tell, like, she really is just a teen girl who wants to find love and be happy and have her friend, and is starting to understand that the world is a lot more complicated than what you've been led on as a child. And that's a really hard adjustment. And that's a really difficult transition. And I mean, she died. So transition ended, I guess.
It's so sad. Yeah, it is. It's really sad. It's like tragic. Like she was learning, she was going to be growing, and then no, you're next to a pond dead.
Yeah. Ostensibly by your best friend or boyfriend. Really, which is better right there? And she had another ex-boyfriend that's very, very hazily sketched. That's why he doesn't get a slot on the Midnight Club. But his name was Harold. And she kind of liked him. And then she met Exotic Amir, who was a flat-out dick to her. Just like, oh my God. I mean, not even taking into account the fact that he ultimately got her killed. But just like there are no good boyfriends in this book. There are no good men in this book. That I think about it,
the only good man in this book is Gator, and
Gator,
he's a child.
That's true. Yeah.
He's not been corrupted by the world yet. But every other man in this movie or in this book is trash.
I think her dad, was he bad, or was he?
No, her dad was dead.
He's not. He's not there.
No, not her dad. The Crystal's dad. He was just crying a lot.
Oh yeah, he had to be sedated, right?
Yeah.
Because right. Okay. Well, I mean, let's say Crystal's family was as good as Crystal.
Yeah.
Crystal's dad was not trash, just not there.
Yeah.
And let's take a moment. This is completely outside of this, to think that Crystal died because some god she didn't believe in separated her soul and shared it with exotic psycho Egyptian Amir and her best friend. So Allah got involved in this poor Midwestern girl's life. It's weird.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, weird. Obviously we're playing with, metaphysical and all sorts of things, but like, how did you find these people without the internet?
Right.
I have a lot of follow-up questions here, Amir.
So I kind of feel like the only reason that he found them was it like something about like he was drawn to them or something because of their soul?
I guess.
I know it sounds dumb.
Very weird and iffy plot point. Like, really.
Yeah.
But does the soul? Because yes, they're connected through their souls. But does it work like a metal detector? Does it start beeping louder? Because he was on another continent.
Right.
How did you know?
I truly hope
I'm going to go to America and find the other two parts of my soul to kill. I don't understand it, honestly, but we'll get to that. We should save that for the plot discussion, because I really don't understand the mythology here.
I don't think anyone does, so it's okay. You're not alone.
Okay, good, because I was already grumpy there. Let's discuss Mitch Severs.
I want to fight him.
I would watch you fight him. I would have a good time.
I won't even charge admission. Free show, nice. Everyone. Show
I'll bring the
up.
popcorn.
So he is such an odd character, because he's like $300 in debt to Duke and his boys, because he bets on his own games.
Who bets on high school sports other than sad dads in the suburbs? What are you doing?
And who does it to a level where Duke's going to come and break your thumbs?
Right.
I mean, it's just weird. It's just really weird. So a little bit about Mitch. This guy was built. He looked like a quarterback in his Letterman jacket with his cocky swagger. His green eyes and tousled brown hair were his best features. I wasn't sure if I liked him or not, but I figured I was probably sleeping with him. God, maybe I was in love with him. Her inner monologue is so much fun sometimes.
To be fair, though, as a very gay woman who had bouts of compulsory heterosexuality in high school, that's probably how I also described
Fair enough.
men,
Fair enough.
where I was just like, I don't think I like this person. Like, I'm definitely sleeping with them, but like, I don't know if I like them. And I just thought that was normal. I was like, this is how all women feel about men. And then it's like, oh, no. Some of them actually like them.
Yeah,
You're just gay.
Well, here's a little bit more insight into her feeling. It's a little bit less apathetic. Mitch is a little boy with a thunderbolt for a right arm and a coconut for a brain.
That's so good, though.
Yeah, the bitchy inner workings of a teenage diary.
I mean, she's at least being honest. Like, the dude can throw a football. I'll give him that. Right. But he's an idiot.
But he's an idiot. And then everything about his football and his sex performance is intertwined then. His what did she say about his spiral here? Oh, shit, now I don't know. I don't know where I saved it. I'll talk about that later. But something about his spiral is loose. And it was more meant about his sexual performance.
So funny.
Okay, let's talk about Amir. And we're gonna just take it as a fact that Amir is problematic. And we will talk about the problematic aspects later in the problematic section. So I just want to take that off the table for the moment.
Beautiful.
He is attractive, apparently, because he looked like a young god, but with earthly appetites. Ooh. And if Mitch was flat, Amir was exotic. Approximately 20, had the dark skin of someone who had grown up in deep desert. Everything about his face was sharp and pointy except his eyelids. His lips, these were heavy and full. He had a raw, sensual bearing. His style was smooth. He moved slowly like a lion with untapped power, ready to burst out at a moment's notice. Yeah, how about that?
Even just how he's described is problematic.
Oh, no, I know it is.
It's not even just him as the character, just like the way that we describe characters that are non-white is so cringe.
And here's another one. His voice was still gentle, seductive. I could envision him as a stage hypnotist working in a smoke-filled tavern in Cairo. I mean, basically, this entire character is like, okay, I saw Casablanca and Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, so I'm going to guess at this character here.
That's 100% where this is coming from. You nailed it.
And he plays so feeble for most of the book. So confused and feeble, only to obviously be the villain that's being set up. Because really, honestly, there is no reason whatsoever for him to be, quote, exotic in this book. Until it's revealed that his... I don't even know how to describe what he is. He's the demon in their relationship, yes, but I mean, he feels like a bit of a time traveler because I really don't see all of those flashbacks to Cairo happening in the present date. You know?
Yeah, it feels like this character is so hard to track, and maybe that's the point. Because he's described as being like this otherworldly handsome, but then his living situation is like...
Yeah, he lives on a cot in the basement of a weird lady's house.
Yeah, it very much is like the meme of like, y'all live like this? Like, like that's kind of where he's got going on. And then, you know, the diary entries reveal like not so great things about him. And, you know... it's so hard to track, because also his interactions with Jenny at the start, he does seem like this very kind of sympathetic, like, oh no, this is a disaster. But
Right.
he obviously knows what's happened. So I'm like, why are you acting like this? Like, I don't know what to do with you.
And I think he only works because of the amnesia.
Yeah, totally.
Well, we're going to talk about Amir more in the Eternal Enemy and the problematic section. So let's move on to poor Elaine, who is in the grand tradition of Pike creating a character just to shit on her. Her name tag said Elaine. She was short, chubby. Her squat, dark legs looked as if she used them to store emergency food rations.
Gotta hate it.
Her face, also heavy, was pleasant enough. And this is just...
How charitable.
I mean, you don't have to... There's no reason to do this to her. She's just a one-scene character. You don't need to you don't need to describe her hardly at all.
I hope Elaine knows that she's a beautiful queen.
When the best part about this, since we are essentially in the point of view of Jennifer, she's walking into Denny's and just thinking this utter shit about a woman she doesn't know.
Right.
For no reason.
It's so aggressive right off the bat. Like, what is like broken inside of you that your first instinct is to subtextually be like, this waitress is ugly as shit. Like,
she's
what?
fat. Her legs are awful. Come on.
Like, it's so rude and unnecessary. Like, this person
really
is
is.
clearly delighted to see you. Maybe comment on that and not like, I hate looking at it. God.
I should avert my gaze so as not to vomit.
Right.
Also, again, why is she such a dick with no personality?
Oh, yeah,
like,
that's very, very good
who
question.
thinks like this, even as just a regular terrible person? But she's not supposed to be terrible. She's supposed to be a blank slate.
Right.
Like, that is the opposite of blank. That's mean.
Maybe the real demon was Jenny all along.
Oh my god. Well, that makes the ending of this suck a little bit.
Oh, well, the ending of this sucks for a lot of reasons, I think, but we'll get there, obviously. Let's talk about a character we all like. Gator. Oh, indeed.
I'm a Gator stan for life.
Yeah, she's been calling him Gator since he grew teeth, which I don't know why, but that just makes me uncomfortable, the idea of growing teeth.
Oh God!
My garden of teeth.
It's just really I feel like the moment I heard that, it was just like the little tooth monster from Channel
Channel Zero.
Channel Zero, yeah.
Oh my God!
It's just like, did you remember to water your teeth today?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
you
God!
can't let them dry out in the sun.
No. I mean, I have issues with teeth in general because I'm not wealthy, but indeed, that growing teeth made me uncomfortable. Here's another example of weird, convenient, bizarre amnesia. He wore Star Wars pajamas. I knew about the movies, although I couldn't remember having seen them. Not only is that unnecessary, but it's a really weird idea that she was aware of Star Wars, but could not actually remember had she seen them or not.
Maybe she just doesn't remember like physically watching them, but she remembers what the movies are about.
It could be.
I can only give this one a pass because I'm also I'm somebody who lives with brain damage, and like one of my favorite things is that I will forget very basic words, but I know like what I'm trying to get to. So we call it plane stationing, like that's the nickname for it, because one time I forgot the word for an airport. And I was like, it's the plane station, which in hindsight, like, I think that is way better of a description because it's like a train station, but a plane station. So frequently I'm like, I know what this is, but I also don't know what this is, but I'm going to use context clues to figure out what this is.
Okay, well, I love the description of it as plane stationing. I love that so much because that just belongs in writing in general when you can just create more interesting versions of things. So Gator, she instantly feels a bond with, which is awesome. Maybe I hadn't forgotten everything. I had just met this kid. I knew nothing about him except that he liked donuts, milk, and cornflakes. Yet I felt such profound affection for him, I couldn't explain it. Maybe love survives when memory fails.
I love that.
Yeah. So she's not just a weird bitch about everybody. Like, she didn't come in here and say, oh, look at this small human. Why are his legs so short? And his teeth are weird. So clearly she doesn't just do this about everybody. Maybe she and Elaine butted heads when she was working. I don't know.
Still, she doesn't need to body shame the shit out of her.
I know. Well, speaking of body shaming the shit out of someone, I'm just going to jump down to Miss O'Bannon, the landlady of Amir.
Oh.
This paragraph is rough. His landlady, the burly 60-year-old woman who answered the door on the ground level, looked like something grown in a burlap bag in a primitive lab. She had a hump for a back which forced her head forward, her shoulders down. Her scraggly gray hair was steel wool. Breathing did not come easily for her. Looking me up and down with beady brown eyes, she wheezed in and out of congested lungs. I decided the rent had to be reasonable. I mean, again, no reason for this. This is just mean. This is just Pike being mean.
I mean, I kind of aspire to be Mrs. O'Bannon in the future. Like, I can't wait until I'm like 75 years old and I can just be like, hello, children. Like, and then nobody, like, what are you going to do? You can't say shit to me if I'm like that.
Yeah,
That's true. That's very true. Those are goals. Yeah. When you're at that like old person age where you can just be surly and people can't judge you because you're just an old person now. Like, this is just sometimes how people get, and this is how I'm going to get, and I'm going to enjoy it.
I can't wait to be the neighborhood witch that all the kids make up stories about. Yes. Like, it's goals.
What I'm hearing, BJ, is you just want to be Anne Ramsey.
I mean, yeah, maybe a little bit.
And to those who don't know, Anne Ramsey is from Goonies and from Throw Mama from the Train. She is a very intense looking woman. She is a very
she has "Don't fuck with me" face, and like that is my dream, is to have "Don't fuck with me" face. Right now, I'm still too approachable, and people are like, "Hey, girl," and I'm like, "Don't look at me."
Yeah, you don't fuck with Anne Ramsey. Who
I just had to Google who she was. Wow, yeah, that is a don't fuck with me.
I am told she was one of the most delightful humans on any movie set she was ever on, and I feel like she'd sneak you a beer and want to play poker with you. I feel like that's Anne Ramsey.
See, yes,
but you'd have to wait for her to do it because you don't approach her.
No, you don't. No,
yeah.
See, that's exactly what I want. I want to be terrifying neighborhood witch, but then like I give out full bars at Halloween.
Yeah,
like, that's what I want.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
that's a good time.
Okay, moving on to Lieutenant Harvey Lott, which really you could just take any of Pike's cop characters, detectives or lieutenants, and just give them, like, he should have a shared universe where it's always the same cop, because they're basically always the same cop.
Mm-hmm.
In his mid-50s.
This one didn't have a weird backstory.
No, that's true.
Though.
That's true. He looked kindly. Over the years, the deep lines of his face seemed to have been dug into his soft flesh from sympathy rather than age. He had a twinkle in his gray eyes that he probably used to his advantage when he was interrogating suspects. So he doesn't have a lot of part. He just...
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just mention how this... I don't know what he is, but this old dude gets such a like nice charitable description, and this nice woman in a Denny's is so horribly described. Yeah. What the heck is that?
Well, you know that Pike likes this guy. I don't know why he doesn't like poor Elaine.
He hates her.
I mean, it's not like Elaine's a cheerleader. Really, that's when he hates characters. I don't know. It is interesting. And I would be very curious to talk to him about that specifically, because he often throws a side character to the wolves for no reason. And especially when they only have one scene or one, like, yeah, it's bizarre. Meanwhile, he gives absolutely no information whatsoever to Officer Jakes, who is apparently important enough that he wanted to ask Jennifer to the prom. And then while Jennifer is going out to body swap, she suggests maybe they could still go to prom together. So I don't know if Officer Jakes is about to go on a date with Amir. But that's a problem for the ending in the plot. So those are our characters. Does anyone else have any characters that I may have missed?
No, but just on Officer Jakes, he's an adult, right?
I think so.
So he's grown, talking about going to
Well,
prom.
no,
with
I feel like he's like, one of those 20-year-old adults.
Right.
I
Just
think
out of
he's
high
like
school.
he's like Dewey and Scream.
Yeah.
Like he's
Okay.
like just a little bit older, maybe has a sibling still around the same age.
like just
Yeah.
graduated
Yeah.
or something. Okay. I thought he was like a grown, like 30.
No,
like, not
no.
30 maybe, but like late 20s. Like he was just way out of high school. And I was just like, what are you?
Well,
I
no.
believe
know
he
these
was a
kids?
senior when she was a
Right.
freshman.
Because that's when he was going to ask her
Okay.
to prom, was his senior year, her freshman year.
Which is iffy, but it's high school. So,
Right.
Yeah, and I think the reason that I didn't, because when they were talking, they were so familiar initially, and it didn't really explain all that.
Right.
So I was just like, how do they know each other? He's a cop. What the
Yeah,
heck?
they just gave suddenly backstory there at the end.
Yeah.
Before she drugs him.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's really weird. Before we get into the plot notes, I want to point out that this is a roughly 210-page book, maybe, and the interrogation scene lasts for 20 pages.
Mm-hmm.
20 pages. Oh my God. And this is not the first time we've had an interrogation scene that just stretches on. Like, Remember Me had one. I mean, a lot of them. I'm just noticing that when Pike gets going with interrogations, it's basically a play at that point. Because he doesn't even put character lines. It's just boom, boom, back and forth. I would say it's like Gregory MacDonald's Fletch series, but it's not, because his interrogation scenes are better. But anyway, a lot of interrogation. So let's talk about the plot here. It's actually a fairly simple plot. She's got amnesia. She's trying to figure out who killed her best friend, because she doesn't think it was her. And it turned out to be a mystical boyfriend. There. I've never been able to sum up the plot for a Pike book like that before.
Mystical boyfriend, aka soul triplet.
Yeah, soul triplet.
Soul triplet.
Which,
What a
I
great
mean,
description.
honestly, I've only got 20 minutes of Googling before this podcast, but I don't think that's a thing.
I don't think it is either. And what's weird is that I do kind of like half of this mythos. I like the idea of, human beings can be their own trinity, and the idea that your soulmate can be anyone, because that's really what it is. It's like Jenny and Crystal are soulmates. And I love any time a book is like your soulmate doesn't have to be like a romantic partner. It can be your best friend. I love that.
Yeah.
And the idea that, the third part has to be kept away, because if you're all together, then it's too powerful. That to me is really interesting. But I don't think it's actually rooted in anything real.
No.
I think it's like picking and choosing from a ton of different cultures. And it's like, now it can't be offensive because it's no one.
Well, I mean, there is that definite possibility, but there's also a possibility, and I think this is, I'm not shitting on your theory, BJ, but I think this is the more likely one, is that Pike misinterpreted something that he heard about that and then wrote this.
I mean,
Because
probably.
there have been definitely things that are very close to being, mythologically accurate, but aren't. And I think that might be what's going on here. It's definitely interesting. I mean, it doesn't have to be mythologically accurate at all. It doesn't mean that's he has every right to invent religions and histories.
Right.
But he probably shouldn't directly connect them with Allah and Muslim, which was an alternate spelling of Muslim until the mid 20th century, I learned, because I immediately put that down as this is a bad mistake. But no, it was an alternate, but also mid 20th century, that puts it in the 50s. So that makes it a little problematic and racist again.
Cooper, when you said that, you said that you Googled this for 30 minutes. I thought you meant you Googled if you could have a mystical boyfriend. Just want to let you know.
Well, I am always curious if I can have a mystical boyfriend.
I was so thrown off. I was like, why?
Aren't we all?
Why did you look it up?
Are you judging my desire for a mystical boyfriend?
I was just so confused. I was like, does he not know that that's not a real thing?
Oh, so you thought I was actually
how can I
looking
get
like
me
I was
one
on
of these?
OkCupid.
He's like, is this a thing? Google, help me here.
I thought you were researching, like, can people have mystical boyfriends? And it threw me off, just so you know.
Oh my god,
I just want a mystical boyfriend in 30 minutes or less.
Yeah.
yes. It's like one of those grow your own mystical boyfriends. You put the little thing in water, and then when you come back, it's a full
It's like sea
boyfriend.
monkeys.
Yes.
Oh my god. Cooper, I'll get you one for Christmas.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. We can go back to theories and not mystical boyfriends.
I don't know. I don't know where to go after that. I'm just kind
I
of.
was just over here giggling to myself.
I guess we could like relay it back to, despite the fact that Amir like clearly treats Crystal like shit.
Shit,
She's
yeah.
still like really into him, and maybe it's because mystical boyfriend powers.
Well, I feel like that's the only reason. Yeah, like literally, that's the only reason that either of them like him is because he is mystical, which weirdly makes him the more powerful of the three of them, which I don't like. But then there's also the idea that maybe just them being in the vicinity of each other is what makes them inexplicably drawn to each other, which is fine. I don't know. It's weird. So I have a little bit of the mythology here. The soul is always one. It can never be otherwise, but the soul cannot incarnate through one body alone. It is too large to be trapped in such a limited cage. Now, I'm actually more confused now having read that aloud. You think that you are all that exists of you, but you are wrong. You are not an individual. No one is. Not deep inside where the soul wanders free.
I think on some levels there's something like beautifully poetic in the idea that like we are not individuals and we are interconnected, and there needs parts of us exist in other parts of people. Like that I can get down with, but at the same time it's just so confusing and kind of convoluted and really difficult to wrap your head around. I was trying to explain this book to my wife because she has never read any Christopher Pike.
Oh, trying to explain Christopher Pike to people who haven't read it. It's like, really? You like this shit?
Right. It's like trying to recite the periodic table of elements. like there's just so much to unpack. And I was like, it weirdly makes a little bit more sense when you read it, and I'm trying to say it out loud and it's not really clicking. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay, well, I truly don't understand. Now, why did he kill her?
He hated her.
Yeah, but what would that do for their soul?
Yeah, I don't understand that either. Like, part of me is like, maybe it's because in theory, my brain is like, okay, Amir's this devil, like he's the pure bad. Crystal's the pure good. Jenny's the balance. That's kind of how I tried to make sense of it.
Right.
So maybe in my head, it's like, oh, well, there's like this intrinsic need of like the dark side to defeat the light. Maybe that's what it is. But at this, like, where does that light go? Does he suddenly get that? And like, is he trying to take away some of the darkness within him and trying to be less evil? Is he trying to be more balanced? Like, that would make sense to me, but that's not what is explained to us.
No.
So I'm having to do this emotional and mental legwork.
Well, it really feels like the idea is that the soul must have these three, right? and these three are always this archetype. So killing one of them really does not actually do anything positive for the demon.
No, yeah, no. Like, there was no reveal that's like, if all three align, then, like...
Right. There should have
they
been...
can defeat the Fire Nation. Like, that doesn't
He has to
exist.
do his, yeah.
So, like, what's the point? Amir, what are you doing? What is your end game?
And killing both of them, because that's his goal at the end.
Yeah.
But why?
Like, do you suddenly get to control the world? Like,
Well, like, so he was saying, too, in the beginning. So he was saying that he was, like, seeing bits of them and that he thought that, like, if he was with them, he was, like, I don't know, craving them or whatever. Like, he wanted to own them. Like, he wanted them to be his. Mm-hmm. And then when he met her, that didn't work out. And it wasn't what he thought, even, like, because he said initially he, like, thought he loved her and it was going great. And then it started twisting. So maybe just to him, he was like, you can't exist. Like, we cannot both exist here. I hate you, so I have to destroy you.
Maybe he shouldn't have killed his mom. Maybe she would have explained it more to him.
Yeah, if anyone has the answers, it's the dead mom, and you just spoiled that, sir.
By jamming a knife through her eye, which made me think of Becca.
It makes me think of me, too.
Because Becca is all about the gore.
Yes.
And since I mentioned, I tightened my grip on the blade. I began to press harder into her eye, her head, even into her soul. Right then, I wanted to cut out her heart and hold it up to both Allah and Isis, which, that's fun, and show them that no demon frightened me because I was a demon. The night turned red and full of screams, and it made me laugh.
I almost highlighted that as, like, a part that I loved, so thank you for reading it.
I always will note the gore for Becca.
I really appreciate it.
There's also something weirdly... like, I don't know if it's like reverse Oedipal, is that a thing? Where it's like the person who knows the truth is the one who gets stabbed in the eyes, and like now not only like the only person who could actually see what's happening gets stabbed in the eye, like, and now is dead. I don't know, like there's just so many mythologies like playing in this swimming pool, and I don't know, there's too much chlorine that's diluting everything.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so here's okay. This maybe is an explanation. This is from the end. We were all both good and bad. That was the lesson of our tale. Our only chance at enlightenment was to balance our conflicting natures. The darkness was as much a part of us as the light, which is real easy for Jenny, the balance of the three, to say. But the lesson, there is no lesson there. That's not actually a lesson. If Amir is the demon and that's who he is, how is he supposed to balance it? I mean, because it's also just really like black and whiting everything.
This is the plot of Pixar's Inside Out. Of that life is actually sadness and happiness and all these other things combined, and all of one thing is bad. Like, that's...
Okay.
Like, but also
and Pixar had the good sense to not say that is the lesson of our tale.
Right. Oh goodness, this book.
Let's see. Okay, so I want to talk about the weirdest moment in the book for me. In a book full of weird moments. Do you remember when she shoots up the van that Mitch and a poor innocent girl are in?
Yes.
With a shotgun multiple times around this van.
And she like laughs that there's probably glass in this girl's hair.
I know. What the fuck just happened there? That's...
Blank slate happened, I guess.
I was so perplexed by that. Like, I get her wanting to make Mitch think that it's Duke and his boys, which all I can think of is the Duke boys. And,
yes, same.
And Dukes of Hazzard there. But she really just went rogue there for about 2 paragraphs and severely threatened the life. Like, for someone who's spent the entire book trying to recognize the fact that she's not a murderer, she may have just murdered 2 people with stray buckshot.
And it really is kind of like a 0 to 60 turn. Like
Yeah.
it comes seemingly out of nowhere. And yeah, Mitch sucks. Like, keep that on the table. He's objectively a shitty boyfriend.
Literally awful, yeah.
And all of the girls that he's, cheating on Jenny with, they know that he has a girlfriend. That's also shitty behavior. The response to that is not shotgun. Like, the response to that is like angsty poetry on LiveJournal and a breakup.
Yeah, exactly. And theoretically, if she just kept the shotgun, she could have shot Amir as soon as he arrived and then not had. I guess the whole thing is, I don't like the ending. I'm just going to say that I don't like that she's going to just live in Amir's body now. That's
I hate it.
Me. But speaking of Mitch and his girls, there was a really weird moment where it sounded like we were going to the Alexa Close's form of non-monogamy with Mitch. Because when Crystal confronts Mitch at the movies, he says, well, you see, you don't know this about Jenny, but she's not always straight with you in this department, if you get my meaning. Then Crystal says, Jenny's as straight as they come. I don't get your meaning. And he said he glanced at Kathy and then smirked, which made me want to sock him. Then there's no explaining it to you, he said. Is he saying we're in an open relationship? Jenny's bi?
As much as I want that to be a thing, and I'm just going to say yes, it's a thing, just because I want it.
Okay.
I feel like he was just kind of referring to maybe he knew about, like, straight as in, like, being honest. Like, he knew that she was sleeping with Amir.
Yeah, I think it had, like, slut-shaming vibes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I read it, too. But I like your interpretation better, because I do like the idea that Jenny's having, like, secret threesomes. Like, that sounds great. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I think it was more so him being like, I'm doing this because she fucked your boyfriend.
Okay.
But yeah, I am going the bi route, okay?
Yeah, we're just going to, like, recontextualize this. Sorry, Christopher Pike. We're in charge now.
It's canon now.
Okay. Yes, excellent. And I always am on board for just suddenly non-monogamy in books.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about this. So when I read Pike now, I'm looking for his clues. And I thought that the robot Clyde was a clue. So I thought, okay, maybe Jenny's a robot. Or maybe, so all these things, maybe Jenny's going to have to microwave her brain to get it back. But no, the whole robot Clyde thing that Gator is always talking about is just a breadcrumb. So poor Gator gets to realize that Amir, the psychotic Egyptian, is actually his sister now.
Can I be honest about this? I'm going to be honest regardless. I don't know why
I would like you to be honest. Yes, I would like that.
I would like to say that the ending was not good, as you mentioned. Like, I do think that, like, the whole body swap thing, I'm not vibing. But this is the one Christopher Pike book where I felt emotions, and it had to do with Jennifer being dead and Gator, like, mourning it, and then that whole little, like, or something about the brain, what you were just talking about, like, bringing it back up for him. Like, I don't know, man. I felt some things. Like, it was cute.
Oh no, yeah, I don't have a problem with it. It's just also weird because now she's, a 21-year-old
for sure,
Egyptian man, and presumably she's going to, if she's not bisexual,
unfortunately,
she's going to like this. There's a problematic future for this poor girl boy. Yeah. This is weird.
And, like, the robot thing for me, because at first I was really hoping this was, like, going to be a robot thing, and it's obviously not. But you could also make the argument that there's sort of, like, a ghost in the machine type thing, where, like, viewing Amir's body as not, like, this isn't not who she is, like, this is just a vessel for where she's going to be, similarly to, like, artificial intelligence in a robot. Like, maybe, but I also think that might be me giving Pike a little bit too much credit.
He was more on board with look how clever I am here at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with the stuff with Gator. Like, when you get the reveal that Jenny is dead, my first thought was, oh, poor Gator.
Yeah, poor Gator.
He's going to be so sad.
Yeah, and without really clearing her name. Her suicide note does not clear her name. So that family is dealing with the fact that their daughter went crazy and killed her best friend randomly. That sucks. But yeah, poor Gator. No, and that's the downside of having a really awesome side character, is that when your emotion is almost entirely given to a side character, it really points out how little emotion is in the center, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. And I also think that I have like such a mixed feeling about that letter, because it's almost presented as if like, we know that Jenny killed Crystal, but the true tragedy is that they loved each other so much and they were best friends and now they can't be apart. Because there could have been something like beautiful there, but it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, he's shot for something, he just did not achieve it.
Yeah, there was definitely good intentions behind that, but ultimately, like, you're totally right. Crystal's family is going to have to deal with that forever. I really don't think that the dad who needed to be sedated is going to be like, aha, well, what a true shame. Jenny loved her, and now they're both dead, and everyone is sad. Like, no, he's going to be like, that bitch killed my daughter.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah, that's just all around shitty right there.
Yeah, and there's also, I don't know the name of either the perpetrator or the victim, but there was a story that happened where, a friend did kill, her best friend, and then, like, lived with the family for months until it was revealed that she's the one who did it.
Oh, God.
So, like, that's a thing that happens in real life, and in my brain, like, that's all I could think about with this story. Was like, you went to their house after you had already killed, your friend, and was like, can I go in her room? I really miss her. And like, in hindsight, that's fucked up.
God, yeah. Let's take a commercial break while we all think about that.
Such a friendly place to take a break.
Think about that. And we'll be back with more of the PikeCast. Friends, where else can you get this kind of programming than the PikeCast? Nowhere, that's where. But we're trying to keep the lights on here. If you like what you're hearing and want it to keep happening, jump over to our Patreon at thepikecast.com/Patreon and throw us a few bucks to join our private Discord server. Higher tiers get books, stickers, bookmarks, and even personalized shirts. That's thepikecast.com/Patreon.
Once, Osgood and Frost were the up-and-coming stars of the burgeoning paranormal investigation TV show craze before a hoax put an end to their friendship, partnership, and television careers. Now, over a decade later, Prudence Osgood is a barely functioning alcoholic ghost hunter for hire. Her yearning for mystery and adventure is reignited when she receives a cryptic, untraceable email. She can't resist embarking on an investigation that tugs threads, winding through a sinister series of disappearances, her former partner's family, and a night 20 years ago when a semi blew a yellow light and nearly killed her. Reviewers are calling Osgood Is Gone a masterfully vulnerable and relatable 21st century horror story, and a bourbon-soaked supernatural mystery with sparkling dialogue that sticks the landing on LGBT characters, and main character Prudence Osgood, as tortured as she is clever, broken in all the best ways, and a true heroine for our times. Buy it today at Osgood Is Gone as a paperback, ebook, or audiobook narrated by me, JJ Ronvier.
Welcome back to the PikeCast. Let's move into the Eternal Enemy. I mean,
Wait, I had something to say before about the other
Let's
thing.
not move into the Eternal Enemy. Let's move to,
It was just a quick thing.
Cassie and her thoughts.
The Cassie's thought section, as you all know it and familiar with it. So I just wanted to just have a quick thing before, based on what you said about Crystal and her like obsession with Amir not being believable. As somebody who was like a 16, 17-year-old girl who had shitty boyfriends who treated me like crap, and I was still like, where are they? I miss them. Like, why is this happening? You know, I thought that was very believable. Like, I didn't think that was even necessarily reliant on them having a soul connection. I was just like, that seems like something a teenage girl would have to deal with.
That's fair.
Yeah, that is fair.
And it could be one of those things where the worse he treats you, the more you assume that you deserve to be treated that way. And
or when you're young, it's like it's not even a deserving thing. It's like, oh, he loves me so much, that's why he's so angry or so passionate or so this or so that.
Because society broke us all, really.
Basically. And that's it. That's my Cassie's thoughts.
This has been Cassie's thoughts. So now let's move on to the eternal enemy, where we are again going to talk about Amir, who we've already really talked about. I mean, honestly, the eternal enemy and the problematic section could probably exist together in this book. But let's just talk about overall thoughts. Does he work as a villain for us?
I mean, he was threatening and dangerous, especially those dream sequences. Those were creepy. Like, there was some creepy stuff happening there. So I thought that was good. I mean, problematic, but he was a villain.
And it is something that Pike likes to do, where he likes to put you in the head of a bad guy in these dreams. Like, he's done this before, where our hero is dreaming of being the villain, essentially. And it's weird because it's sort of like almost like locked in syndrome. Like, you're watching this happen or you're doing it, you know. It's interesting.
I think for me, and I guess it's jumping ahead a little bit, because everything about Amir is presented with such problematic like text and setup, it's really hard for me to invest in him as a villain, because my brain is just like, this is a caricature, like this is an archetype, this is not a real person, this is a concept. And then it like pulls me out as really seeing him as a villain. Like, obviously he's not doing great shit. Like, I know that I'm supposed to dislike him, but the way it's presented to me, I can't be like, oh, I'm so scared of Amir. I'm like, oh, this is a concept and it's very racist and I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I mean, it says a lot about everything that the moment he showed up as an Egyptian, I knew he was the bad guy.
Yeah, and they also say like Middle East and Muslim a lot.
Yeah.
And what's very kind of upsetting is that this is also a pre-9/11 book.
Right.
And it's like, wow, this is really heavy-handed even before. Like, I am like terrified what this story would have been like if this was published in like 2002.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's And you look at, okay, so the early 90s, you've got the Gulf War. So we've got the first Gulf War. So we've got the Iraq conflict. But this feels, it almost feels like, well, I'll move it to Egypt, so it's not problematic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about sex first, and then we'll get to the problematic stuff.
But talk about sex, baby. Okay, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I got that. That's what I thought too. That's literally what you
Let's talk about sex, baby.
You got Cooper. You got to go baby like that. Good job.
I try.
An attempt was made, and we were all here for it.
Yes.
Occasionally, I am cool-ish.
That's my go-to now. An attempt was made, and we were here for it.
So I've got a lot of quotes. There's a lot of sex in here, but there's also a lot of just calling it doing it, which irritated me every time it happened. Does anyone have anything they would like to bring up for the sexuality, titillation, thirst section of the podcast?
Oh, you already said my part about how frequently they say doing it.
Doing it, yeah.
Because like I'm also very like I like to think of myself as somebody who's like well versed and worldly and educated, but I absolutely like, hey, you want to do it to my wife all the time, because I'm perpetually like a 14-year-old boy. but like I'm fully aware that I'm saying it because I'm an immature asshole, not because like I'm trying to be like, and then we did it. Like, no, I'm doing it because I'm not serious ever.
Well, let's go right off of that to this bit from her diary. We tried to do it twice. But the first time, Mr. Happy was acting like he needed Prozac. And the second time, I rolled off the bed and couldn't get off the floor. It was just as well. We didn't have any condoms with us.
What does that first part mean? I don't
I
understand.
don't
the Prozac
know.
thing. Oh, okay. I was like, this is something going over my head. I'm going to ask Cooper.
Because Mr. Happy is often a euphemism for an erection.
Right.
But I think she was just referring to him as Mr. Happy.
I assume that she meant, like, because of the Prozac makes you happy. I feel like she was trying to make a joke there.
I don't know.
Well, it doesn't have to be a good joke.
I was confused.
Given the fact that it started with like we tried to do it, like I don't understand why it just wasn't like the first time we tried to do it, he couldn't get it up, and the second time I fell on the floor. Like,
Yeah.
The joke didn't need to be there because it's not funny.
Oh, is that what they were saying though? That he couldn't?
I think so.
I
Perform?
think
Is that
that was what I took
Okay.
away from it, but I don't know.
Okay,
It is very confusing.
I was just so because they were like, we didn't do it, but he's happy, and I was like, wait, why didn't you do it if you're
Yeah,
happy? I'm
right.
so confused.
I have one
well-
for you, Cooper.
Yeah, hit it.
And I'm going to read it without any context because it makes the first part funny to me, okay?
Fair enough. Okay.
Alright. He must have sneaked in my room while I was fighting with the alligator. Peeking through my door, I was shocked to see Mitch stretched out naked on top of my bed. He was a big boy. Get up.
Oh my
Yes.
god!
Yes.
Jeez, Louise.
I mean, I guess amnesia makes you forget what that dick be like. So
Yeah. And like I love that she comes up to her bedroom and he's just laying there naked and hard.
Right.
And he's just like, I thought we should do it.
To comfort each other.
each
Like,
other.
who does this?
I wish there was a couple pages just describing Mitch trying to get in the correct position and like trying out like how he wants to lay on the bed like it's a 2000s rom-com.
Like should I lean up? Yeah. I think so too. That would be great.
One knee propped up, one knee lowered.
Do a little bit of the Burt Reynolds centerfold thing going on. Yeah.
But instead, where it's like he's laid out on my bed, part of me is just picturing him laying like spread eagle with his arms out, just like, please mount me.
Doing like snow angels on the
Starfishing.
Just starfishing. That's a way better descriptor. Yeah.
Starfishing. That was a wacky quote. Yeah. Thank you, Becca, for grabbing that.
I got your back.
Yeah. So I like that the first person she meets after waking up is a guy reading a Penthouse magazine at a gas station. Reading Penthouse, very important.
Wait, hold
Penthouse
on. Is
never
that
had
like
good
Playboy?
articles.
Penthouse is like Playboy, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
One of my favorite parts of this podcast is when I have to explain porn magazines to you two.
You know this one, Cassie?
Playboy's the classy version. Penthouse
Yes.
is a little more like open wide. Is the only way I can describe it.
You're going to see a little bit inside, and then
Yeah.
Hustler. That's where you see more inside. That's where you go all the way inside.
But Penthouse
Okay.
never had.
Wait, are you in the magazine or in the?
Say it, Cassie, say it.
No, I'm not.
I have this-
What do you mean when you say?
Okay. I'm gonna
have the
sum
same
this
question.
up as classy as I possibly
Oh
can.
god, I'm scared.
Okay. Playboy, it sort of is like the labia don't part. Like it's all one just closed area.
It's nude
Right?
modeling in Playboy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Penthouse,
Oh god.
it's very clear there is something between the labia, but we don't really know what it is. Hustler, you see the full vagina.
Okay.
How's that?
Okay.
Yeah.
I did
And
not.
Playgirl
know
is
that there
about
were
men.
Different levels.
Okay.
I learned that from being here
I
with
know.
you. Thank you.
I did I thought I'd give that to you. And there is a wide spectrum of other dirty magazines, but those are the well-known ones.
But it's also important that the articles also differ. Like Playboy, because I've written for Playboy before, and
Playboy has really good articles. When someone says they read it for the articles, it's legit because Playboy has good reporting and good articles.
Yeah, so there's like actual like good written information in Playboy. Penthouse has like Dear Penthouse forum letters, where it's people being like, I fantasized about fucking my teacher. Here's how I thought about it in great detail. And it's like, like, pre-Tumblr fan fiction, but like mostly by men writing their own fanfic and then sending it into Penthouse.
Yes. And saying, I can't believe it happened to me.
Yes. So if somebody's at a gas station reading a Playboy, you might be able to be like, oh, this might be an interview with somebody, and this is going to be this really in-depth interview. Reading Penthouse, you're reading fan fiction.
Yes.
Okay. So you're probably reading it to get off.
And then Hustler's articles are just not even, really, it's not even real articles.
No, Hustlers are like, let's talk to this model. She actually likes men who are slightly overweight and balding. And it's like, oh, that's me.
It's like you, men reading.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm learning so much about magazines.
This is the educational portion of the PikeCast where we talk about adult magazines. And speaking of Penthouse Forum, there's a line in this book, the teacher was a 30-year-old woman in a miniskirt so short that it explained why 80% of the class was male. God. So somebody is writing a letter in that class, Dear Penthouse Forum, I can't believe this happened to me. My teacher, blah, blah, blah. That's it.
Maybe he was reading it to see if his article.
And I'm definitely of two minds about that letter, because on one hand, it's like, yeah, that's definitely some like machismo fantasy. But at the same time, there is a divorce lawyer in the Chicagoland area who exclusively wore red power suits with like very short mini skirts because she would take men for all they were worth. She drove a car with the license plate, I unwed you. Like baddest bitch in the world. Like she walks into these courtrooms and like once you see that this woman is representing your wife, you know that like you're losing all of your money. She's going to take everything from you.
Oh, I love
so, like, that's my two minds where it's like on one end I'm like, that's you're gross. But at the same time I'm like, or like the guy is gross for like objectifying her in this way. Right. But at the same time, I'm also like, you know what? Good for her.
Yeah, good for her. Oh, yeah, I've got some more here. He appeared relieved. We must have done the dirty deed. Oh, wow. Mitch and Amir in the same week. At least I wasn't boring. And that's not a diary entry. That's actual prose there. I found my diary under my bed next to a packet of condoms. Did the adventures with the latter fill the former?
I'm sorry.
I actually really like that one too. There, I like that a lot.
I'm so glad that I did not keep a diary of my sexual exploits in high school, because they would just be very boring and depressing. Like, I don't know if any of them know what they're doing. I'm sad now.
It's just the Dear Diary. I don't think that's how that should have gone.
Dear Diary, how come I can only make myself orgasm? I don't understand. Am I broken? No, bitch. Big letters. You are gay.
I just imagine, BJ, a page that says Dear Diary, men, ?
Well, there definitely was a shift in high school when I did like really come to terms with things, where then I just started doing it because I thought it was funny. Where
for the amusement factor.
This is why I'm in therapy, friends, is because like there's something broken in me that loved to like sleep with a man, and then they're like, I bet that was great, and I'd be like, no, I'm still gay, and they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, sorry, bye. Like,
wow, that's like the vengeful gayness right there. Yeah,
that's a power move right there. I love it.
That is essentially that is your red power suit.
Yeah. Part of me knows that like in context, you're like, oh, that's kind of like a bad bitch move. But then also I'm like, oh no, I like really probably hurt some of these people's feelings. And all they wanted to do was like have sex with a nice girl and I ruined it. So I'm of two minds about it. Hold two truths at the same time. That's how the world works.
That is possible, yeah.
We're experiencing a lot of things on today's PikeCast.
It's all about balance, just like the book implies.
It's all about balance.
Well, here's a moment that I want to just shout out to Cassie and her Office fandom. What do you do for me? She asks Mitch. Everything. I take you to the movies, buy your meals. I give you the best sex you've ever had. Are you with me on the Office reference there, Cassie? Okay,
yeah,
good.
I am.
Because that is what Roy promised Pam for Valentine's Day.
Mitch has super big Roy energy.
Totally
Honestly.
Roy
like, do
energy.
the absolute minimum and then expect everything and be like, "What do you mean you're not like bending over backwards for me? What?"
No. So here's another Jennifer reference where I don't know what she's talking about. They know your tight spirals get kind of wobbly whenever the action gets too hot, if you know what I mean, Mitch.
I think it has to be like an erectile dysfunction joke. Like it has to be. I don't know what else it would be.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm too literal. I thought that was actually sports.
No. It's sports is a metaphor.
It's like how
it makes sense when you're explaining
but
it.
usually we use like baseball for these analogies. We don't use football, which I mean, in hindsight, maybe we should use football. Like
big men crashing into each other.
Because you're touching down?
Yeah, you're touching the down. There's like grass on the field. Yeah. There's flags on plays.
There's a goal.
Like there's a lot more to work with than just running bases.
Yeah, the bases are confusing anyways, because I think people all have different opinions on which base is which, and so you're like, what are you doing with your hand down my throat? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Whoa, Cassie, what are you doing with your hand down my throat?
Sometimes in my head I'm making a joke as I'm doing it, but I realize it's not landing and not going to come across, and I just go with it anyways, because I don't fucking care. And
that's what we dig about you, Cassie.
Yep, and so now there's hands down the throat at second base.
Listeners, what base would you consider hand down the throat?
Up to the elbow in the throat.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think that's like home run for me.
Oh my God. Down the throat, up to the elbow. Okay, let's get some more doing it lines here. I looked up at him. Do you still want to screw me? He took a step back. This is hardly the time. I gave him a twisted smile. I wasn't offering you my body. I was just wondering. It's just weird. It's just a weird exchange there. Okay, we got some diary quotes here. The way they were making out, there was no way he was going home dissatisfied. Kathy, I'm sorry, Cassie. Kathy is a tramp.
Oh, damn, Cassie.
I know. I'm like, God damn, all right.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean that wasn't intentional. I promise.
It's good.
I promise. Here's a weird this is sort of a dense reference here. The movie was only rated PG. Most of the audience was kids. But those kids just had to look over their shoulders to get the coming attractions. What it's like to be a senior in high school, a stud football jock with the IQ of a goalpost.
Is coming attraction a play on words, or is that just...
I think it's a little bit of play on words, but also just look, there's kind of sexy shit happening.
But like...
I feel like that could also partially be in the problematic, because what are they doing with those children?
Right, why are you doing this in a PG-13 movie? That's like rule one. If you're going to do weird shit in the theater, it better be rated R.
And why is that turning you on? Like, what are you doing over there? Like, what are you watching, like, Trolls? And you're just like, yeah. Like, it's just so bizarre to me.
Trolls.
I mean, I'm not kink shaming anybody. If you like Trolls, you like Trolls. It's fine. But I just don't do it in a theater with children.
Right.
Like, that's weird.
Maybe,
there were still drive-ins back then. They could have gone to a fucking drive-in instead of, fucking around in the car outside the theater and then in the theater. I felt his hands all over me. I'm not sure where they went, but I didn't mind. That's for sure. I'm not sure where they went.
Back to the throat thing.
Does he just not know what to do with his hands?
Just all over. Just there's down the throat. There's just suddenly there's a hand down your throat, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Already second base. What the hell?
Let's see. She gestures to the statue of the demons. Do you see the looks of lust and horror on their faces? Is their pain not clear to you? I don't know. It looks like they're having a good time.
What kind of sex are you having?
Yeah, I don't know. Amir's got problematic sex written all over him.
Oh, God.
Speaking of problem, wait, we didn't even get to that.
We're about to. We're about to. Yeah.
Okay. I'll wait.
Does anyone else have any titillation? Like, this is some of the dullest sex in all of Pike, because it is just all, hey, let's do it.
Part of me almost like I hate how casual it is, but also part of me likes how casual it is, because I think we get really flowery, especially with sex with like high school, where we act like it's this big important thing, where to some people, yeah, it is this big important thing, but to others, like, it doesn't fucking matter and it's not a big deal.
Right.
And there's something mildly refreshing about that, but I don't think that Christopher Pike was like, I'm going to write refreshing sex that doesn't matter.
No, you don't think he was on that page?
No, I think this is another instance of I'm giving him too much credit.
Okay, well, let's move into Die Softly, which is where we talk moralizing and problematic elements in the writing and plot. Considering how much sex is going on, I didn't feel much moralizing. Silence.
I was trying to think of how to word it. So I didn't like the part in Amir's house where he was doing it with Crystal, and it was very like violent. She was not into it, and like that just whole scene was like, I think that's part of too why he was so solidified in my head as a villain, because it wasn't even like the rest of his descriptions or anything. It was just that scene. And I think that like energy in that was so like, oh, he's a bad guy. Like, he's so bad. I don't like him. Like, I don't want this dude anywhere around me or these girls or anything. And that it's not problematic from the way that like, I mean, maybe it is, I don't know, but it from the way that it's written, because I thought that it wasn't like very vulgar or like graphic, but just as a scene, like for what it was, like, I don't like it.
Well, and you got to figure, like, both of the men in this book are really bad at sex.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. They're really just selfish dicks.
Yeah, they're very much men that take what they want and they feel entitled to it, which is gross, because the amount of times that Mitch like talks about how like great he is. Like, I'm a great boyfriend and I do all these things for you. And it's like, that doesn't
give me money.
You. Yeah, that doesn't entitle you to money or sex or anything. Like, that's not how that works, dude. And now that we've all determined that Mitch was not talking about the fact that they are in an open relationship, it's even worse. Right, because now he's just like a cheating asshole. Yeah, a cheating asshole who just wants money from his working girlfriend who has a job because he doesn't. Yeah, I mean, and he also is like totally cool with taking Gator's money. Like, you suck, dude. Yeah. And then, I don't know, I guess just for problematic, just everything about Amir is, like, no matter what lens you look at it through, what scene are we describing him? Are we describing his actions? Are we describing his religion? Are we describing how he lives? Are we describing where he came from? All of it is a problem. I have three lines that specifically stood out to me. Like, you're right. It's not just dialogue. It's not just description. It's Kim is the bad, is the problematic thing. But the whole school knows that you're doing it with that greasy Egyptian. Yeah. Oh God. That one, like, I had like a recoil when I read that. Yeah. This one was odd for me. I keep telling her I won't steal him away. I don't care if he's homely. I won't report him to immigration. Mm-hmm. I don't. That also reads so heavy now because of how it really does. How like intense it's gotten. So for that to even be a threat back then, I'm like, oh, you mean business, and that's awful. Yeah. And then there's they know how to defend themselves in the Middle East, all those wars and plagues of locusts. Oh, God. Which is funny because as far as I know, the only plague of locusts was
Christian God.
Right.
So, yeah. Although I'm sure somebody's going to point out that Old Testament is less Christian God and more the universal God archetype that is from the Genesis of the. But, I don't care. Plague of Locusts, Christian God, Moses, all that shit.
Yeah. And I think it's also important for me, especially somebody who read this when I was really young, and like this book did have like an impact on me. These were obviously things that as a 12-year-old, like I could not process them as like how bad it was, because I was definitely in this mindset of, oh, this is just how we're writing this character. Like, oh, he's a bad guy. That's why they're calling him Gracie. It's because he's a bad guy. Or, oh, that's why he knows how to defend himself because there are wars in the Middle East. Oh, okay. Like you don't have the connection of what that messaging is telling you until you're older and you develop that language and that critical thinking. So doing this reread, like I knew that it was going to talk about Amir and him being Egyptian. I did not remember how awful it is, just like how blatantly racist it is. Like it's not even trying to be subtle. And, even just how they describe his appearance and thinking about the way, a 12-year-old, I was not thinking about the way that we like fetishize or objectify non-white characters in this way. Or
I don't think any of us were processing that then.
Which is really interesting to me because I'm very curious how like the new generation would read these books. Like I have a 14-year-old nephew who watches like a ton of stuff. And like he recently watched Promising Young Woman, and it tracked. He was that's fucked up, that's problematic. Like he knew everything. So I feel like a book like this, he would read it and be like, why did you give me this racist book? Because like these are just the conversations that we're having now, where we can look at this text and recognize it. That just wasn't happening when these books were being published or when they were being consumed even. So I'm just very curious how something like this would read to new teen eyes.
Me too.
I think that's another thing too, is because I see a lot of people posting, especially people that are my age, that are like revisiting these books now. And when I see the reviews of them, they don't ever, I mean, there might be a couple, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for every single one, but the ones that I see they're really focused on the story and they completely ignore anything that's problematic in these books. And it's strange because I'm like, you acknowledge that you read these when you were young, and you're reading them now through a different lens with adult eyes. And like, how are you not thinking like, how is this not so glaringly obvious to you that there are these big things here? Like, and maybe I'm not saying they don't notice it. Maybe they just choose not to put it in the review, but it's just so many of them. Like, why aren't you choosing to talk about this? Because it doesn't detract from anything to speak about it. Like, if anything, the awareness of it, and like you can like we were talking about before, it's balance. You can point out the problematic elements of something while still being like, yeah, I loved these books when I was younger.
And you can still love them today and be very aware of the problems. It's just the awareness of the problems is the essential part.
Yes.
If you're not cringing a little at things, then that's the problem. Like there should be some cringe. And there is a tendency, I think, for us to go full throttle in the opposite direction. Like I just revisited Ghostbusters. I love Ghostbusters. And immediately when I said I was going to watch Ghostbusters, everyone's like, well, you know how Pete Venkman's a rapist. It's like, well, I think you may be going a little bit further than need be with this discussion. Yeah, Peter's a problematic character. But that's okay. That's his character. That's it. That's,
I think there's also a disconnect too, in that people assume that if you're writing about it, that means you're encouraging it or endorsing it.
Oh, yeah, right.
And that's also not a thing that's happening here. Because like the way that I look at Pike books is very similar to the way that I look at like a Roald Dahl, where obviously Roald Dahl's writing for much younger audiences, but it is like you have to be aware that when you're reading or even watching either version of the witches, like they're supposed to be anti-Semitic. Like that's what the witches are. And it's really important to like know that in the back of your mind. That's like, I love the way that this looks and this movie means a lot to me from childhood. However, I can also recognize that like it was rooted in like a really not cool place. And that's how I feel like with Pike, where I'm like, this book in particular, yeah, this introduced me to this idea of like metaphysical, like, you know, body swapping and all of these things that had nothing to do with like religion, or I guess like not a Christian religion, a religion that, you know, in my experience had oppressed me and made me feel bad. And it's like, oh, I can tell a story like this and I don't have to make it like an exorcism movie. That's really cool to me.
Yeah.
But I can do that while also recognizing that influence is coming from a book that is also doing a really shitty job at presenting a character from another country and turning it into this like exotic mystical magic that's scary and spooky and like fear this brown man. Like,
Yeah.
both of those things are true.
Here's the fix. He is not the villain. Make one of the girls the villain. You gotta fit. Then it's about subverting expectations, and it's about pointing out the racism of the audience. Like, you thought he was the bad guy, not me.
Yeah, there's, and to me that feels like having your cake and eating it too.
No,
like,
I know.
Yeah, where it's like, we're gonna say all this awful shit, but then also like, oh, no, it's Jenny. It's like, that's not how that works. I'm still mad about
There's
this.
actually not a fix to this problem.
Yeah.
This is just a problem. This is the big problem in the storyline that cannot be easily fixed.
And it also happens so fast.
Yeah, it really does.
It very feels like, and here's the fix, and we're gone. And it's like, that was 6 pages. What happened?
Right, when we spend 20 pages on an interrogation of stuff we already knew.
Right.
Or just the words, I don't know. How many times the words, I don't know, appeared in that?
Oh, God, make that a drinking game and we're all in the hospital.
Oh, good God. Yeah. Well, let's move on to Season of Passage, where we talk about the best and worst writing and the Pikeisms of it all. Let's start with the Pikeisms. We do have Big Mac reference. I've seen him throw more perfect spirals with a Big Mac and a bag of French fries. Again, a weird sports thing that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like he's throwing loose spirals with his dick and perfect spirals with a Big Mac. I don't know what that means.
Do we think that Christopher Pike has actually ever watched football? Because he says spirals a lot.
I feel like the only sport Pike truly knows about is track and field. Yeah, because he talks a lot about that. I feel like he was on the track team and probably did not particularly like the jocks on the football team or the cheerleaders who loved them.
No, I don't think so either.
Or he really liked the cheerleaders, but they liked the jocks on the football team. So, yeah, there's that. This I really enjoyed. I was looking for this earlier when we were talking about the weirdness of the amnesia. What kind of amnesia was this? I had not forgotten the basics of life. I knew the Earth was the third planet from the sun. I knew about MTV, which bands were popular, what French fries tasted like, and even how it felt to make love. So just calling out the fact that we don't understand amnesia either.
It feels mighty convenient.
Yes, really all the amnesia storylines ever are about convenience, I really think.
I also, just as a blanket statement, want to throw up in my mouth every time I have to read the phrase making love.
Yeah, me too.
It is the
Did you prefer
worst.
Doing it? Did you enjoy the
honestly, yes. I prefer doing it. Honestly, I would even take like a dating game like making whoopee over making love. Like making love just is so flowery and like, we made love.
No,
you had
I
sex.
fully agree.
Calm down.
Yeah, it's like a huge turn off when you want to make love. No,
Absolutely.
I don't.
Do you want to make beautiful music with me? No, I would like you to leave my house.
Yeah, I feel like it's just not. I mean, for some people, and if somebody's listening and they love that, that's good for you. But for me, it's not. My
Yeah,
jam,
we're
I
not
think.
shaming people who like
No.
to make love.
No.
I think we should go the Sims route and just call it woohooing.
Yeah, woohoo.
I do.
I think it's so.
I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
think I did have like a revelation as we were talking about it. There is one instance in which I accept "Make Love" like in my brain, and it's the Boys to Men song "I'll Make Love to You." Like
Yeah.
that's perfect. That's the only time it's acceptable.
I feel like the Boys to Men, they do make love.
Oh, for sure.
That's you're tapping into it.
Yeah.
The reason that "Make Love" I think sits so weird with me is because I'm like, no, you can't. I don't believe you.
Yeah, right.
But like, if Boys to Men says I'll make love to you, I'm like, you probably could.
Dude, I'm going to be honest. I remember Boys to Men from being little and hearing my mom make love
Oh my God.
in the other room. And she would be like blasting that. And so that also just takes me out of the movie.
That feels like a trauma statement.
Can I share like something related to that has nothing to do with the book, but it'll make you laugh? When my little sister was conceived, we found out what happened because my parents had this picture from a Halloween party, and I was like, oh my God, these costumes are great. Like, my mom looked at it and she's like, oh yeah, that costume was great. I don't remember what happened that night. And my dad like joked and he's like, that's the night we made Alexa. And I like look at the back of it. Sorry for naming her, but whatever, she don't care. And I look at the back of the picture and it said on there like, like October 92, and I'm doing the math and it leads up to her birthday. And I was like, oh yeah, you would have conceived her that night. That makes sense.
Oh my.
My parents were dressed like Wayne and Garth. So my sister is scarred. Like,
yeah,
she can't watch any of the movies. When those commercials came back around last year where it was like, oh, look, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey are back, she was like, I hate the television. I'm throwing it away.
Wow.
Oh my God.
It is my favorite thing in the world. Like, even when people say schwing, like, she's like, no. Bohemian Rhapsody, like, trauma response. She's like, no, because it makes me think of my parents fucking.
Well, let's talk about how unconscionably cruel it is for your parents to have taken away Wayne's World from your
Especially because I grew up around Chicago, so like Aurora, Illinois is really close. So like
we're all excited about Aurora.
It's kind of a staple. So like it's really unavoidable.
Oh
Wow.
So yeah, that had nothing to do.
This is what you get from the PikeCast.
I don't know your parents, but I'm just picturing two people and they're just like, party time, excellent, while they're going at it, and it's just
honestly,
the greatest. Like, I love it.
Like, my mom's license plate for the longest time was Jovi Fan 1 because she loves Bon Jovi. Like, my mom likes to party. My mom's a down bitch. I understand.
That's amazing.
Okay, well, it's not what you expect. I got some more gore for Becca.
Yay.
Now that I had stared into the girl's eyes, it was hard to leave her side, to abandon her to the ants and spiders and little animals that would surely begin to crawl in her mouth, over her face, nibbling at her eyeballs. There's some eyeball trauma in this book.
Love the detail on that.
Yeah.
He loves eyeball nibbles.
Eyeballs are
Pike.
terrifying.
He does.
That passage is so sad to me.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing that I could think of that really kind of reminded me of is there's a scene in Adam Green's Frozen, not obviously the Disney Frozen.
Oh, the
ski lift,
the chairlift. Yeah, that movie's fucked up.
That movie's crazy, but there's a monologue in it that I love so much, where Emma Bell's character is realizing that if she freezes to death on this chairlift, that like the ripple effect of what's going to happen now, of like, my dog is at home alone and is going to be wondering why I'm not coming home. And what if the neighbors don't hear the dog? What if my dog dies because I'm dead? Like this trickle effect of what happens when somebody dies. And that's what's happening here is it's like, if I leave her here, then like animals are going to come after her. And how are they going to get into her? Oh, from her eyes, because that is a way they get into your body. And it just really broke my heart, because I think especially when we have any sort of like horror death teen thing, we like to be like, there was a murder, and we don't talk about like what happens after those murders, because that's like the yucky part that is really unpleasant. And it's like, nope, here's the unpleasant treat on a platter for you.
Yeah, especially the dog part, because I care more about dogs than people.
Same.
In general, yes. Anyway, this is the weirdest line ever. Her yellow sweater was so red, it could have been a Christmas gift from a psychotic Santa.
Sure.
That's a comparison, I guess.
Yeah, I read that. It's just like, huh. All right. Okay.
I guess that's a great way to say there's a lot of blood? Question mark? I don't know.
Psychotic Santa's giving you Christmas gifts of red sweaters that used to be yellow because blood. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
I would read a book about Psycho Santa.
I mean, there have been some really good Psycho Santas in horror films, I think.
No, a Pike book, I meant.
Well, I mean, okay.
A spinoff.
Well, you could add that to your Pike anthology. Yeah.
Done.
Psycho Santa. Okay, I got a few of the best lines. Does anyone have anything here?
I have one of them.
What do you got?
Okay, so I want this on my tombstone. Are you ready?
Yes.
A naked soul rising from an unclean coffin.
Yes!
I love it.
That is
I like
really
that one
great.
too.
It's very goth.
Mm-hmm.
It is. So good.
I've got if eyes were the windows of the soul, then drugs were glass cutters. Yeah.
That is kind of great.
Let's see. Yet dark shadows moved in the fresh fluid like floating spirits escaping from graves. Stabbing through with moonlight, the shadows took on a reddish hue. I realized I was looking at blood. She is very literary for someone who has just woken up with amnesia.
I mean, I guess that's the only way she can be, because she has to describe what is happening because she doesn't know what is happening. So you gotta put it together. I do like the visual of like moonlight stabbing, because I think whenever we think about that image of moonlight through trees and forests, it tends to be this like very ethereal and beautiful sort of image. Like usually like the moonlight points to a safe spot in the woods, like in Cabin in the Woods, where it like shines down and it's like, that's the beautiful place where we can now have sex.
Right.
But in this instance, it's like, no, it's stabbing through, and it's like, oh yeah, that changes the tone.
And I got one last big paragraph here. I sat late at night beside a wide river and smoked a drug that was as potent as it was sweet. The clouds of the intoxicant whirled around my head like mental vapors that had seeped from my ears. It was as if my mind flew out with each exhalation of the sticky smoke. I was not merely stoned, because a stoned person did not continue to get higher and higher, as I did. Leaning my head back and staring up at the stars, I knew that before the night was over, I would touch them. I thought that was nice. And I actually don't have any worst writing. Most of it just showed up in the weird or problematic section. Anyone else have any passages?
Mm-mm.
Then let's move on to Last Act, where we talk about our final thoughts and rating out of 5 pikes. And BJ, you can put something on the pikes as decoration, or if you want to especially hate something, you can just stab it with the pike, whatever you like. But you get to go first. So out of 5 pikes, and this is recognizing that Christopher Pike is not the literary world's finest author.
Right.
So a 5 is not like it's better than, the greatest book of all time. It's a 5 out of pikes. I
am going to stick it like a little above average. I'm giving it a 3, because a lot of people are like 3's in the middle. I'm a little past 3, because I think compared to some of his other works that I love a lot more, this kind of falls a little flat. But I don't think it's as awful as a lot of people like to believe it is. I did do some looking at reviews on Goodreads, and I was like, a lot of you are like unnecessarily kind of cruel to this book. But I get it's also very confusing. I think if the character of Amir was handled better, I would feel entirely different about it. But I am fully recognizing that the reason that this gets a 3 and not like a 2 is purely based on my personal lived nostalgia for it.
Well,
100%.
yeah, and that's often the case. Now, I have a pitch for you, BJ.
Yes.
What if instead of from Egypt, Amir was a pale white guy from Nova Scotia?
So are we to believe that this is like Viking magic? Is that what we're trying
I wasn't
to
going
believe?
there, but I was just trying to put him a little bit more in less problematic. But now Viking magic, does that get problematic? I don't know.
See, and that's where it gets like very complicated. I think if like Amir was just some random guy from like another state, maybe I would feel a little less different.
Florida. Okay, he's from Florida.
Okay, honestly,
and it's Florida swamp magic.
Honestly, I do feel a little bit better because if I was a Florida man, I'd be trying to get the fuck out too. So I now feel a little bit more empathy for him. But also,
when I say swamp magic, I do not refer to like voodoo and New Orleans swamp magic. I mean bumpkin swamp magic.
Yeah, this is like the Keys.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
The Keys magic. I do think I feel a little. I feel a little different because then I think I would be able to process him more as just a pure villain and not like a caricature of, a scary other character.
Yeah, exactly. That's because that's really what he's sold as from the moment.
Yeah.
Just from the name, it's just like, oh yeah, he's the other in this.
Yeah, we're not even trying to be like cute and metaphorical, like, oh, the other is a vampire. It's like, no, the other is just a foreign man. And it's like, oh,
exactly.
Yikes.
A foreign man who doesn't, let's make it clear, have a last name.
Also true.
I mean, if he does, I want someone to tell me, because I did a search in the PDF and I could not find a last name.
No, she even like waves it off and is like, it's something
Yeah,
Middle Eastern.
Exactly.
As if that would make it too difficult for her to know her friend's last name.
Yeah. Okay, Becca, what do you got?
Okay, so I understand that there are some issues with this book, for sure. I have
you don't have to quantify your number, Becca. You owe nobody anything.
That's true. I just like the idea of like a woman waking up next to a dead body and being like, oh, what the shit happened? Like, that is sweet to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Like that, the concept is nice. But in general, the book was pretty average to me. So I'm going to give it 2 mystical boyfriends reading penthouse magazines.
Wow.
So 2.5.
so 2.5, those penthouses with, okay. Excellent. Mystical boyfriends reading penthouse. Boom. Okay, Cassie, where are you at?
I remember this one from when I was younger. I didn't remember, like you guys had already said, I don't remember the problematic stuff or being aware of it as a kid. But I do remember like the metaphysical stuff, and I remember the blood, and just the sadness of having a best friend that's dead now. So I was like, oh, this is emotional and sad. But as an adult reading it, I think I like it a bit less. Because there are still sad parts, but just if we're purely rating them based on other Pikes, there are other ones, and it doesn't surprise me that I'm pretty sure I only read this one like once or twice when I was a teen. So I think I'm going to go with 2 Pikes, but I'm going to give it a big boost with Mitch's dick. So that's just a big boy. So. Okay. Yeah, so it's a little over 2.5, actually.
Over 2.5. Okay, so
just a little bit, but it's not quite 3.
2.75 then?
Yeah. That's the range I think we're going to go for.
The rare 2.75.
And just to be clear, the rest of Mitch is not there. It's just the bed and then just that.
But does the Big Mac get to come along? That's okay.
Of course, yes.
Because that's what keeps his spiral tight, I think.
Mm-hmm. We want to keep that spiral tight.
Yeah. Wow, okay. No, I don't know what to top that with. I mean, I will say that I'm surprised by how much I enjoyed the book. It is not among his best, but it is a page turner. It is interesting. It is surprising. Whether it's like obvious that Amir is the villain, that doesn't matter, because I did not see the 3 souls thing coming. So I'm going to go. And now I feel I have to have something special here, because
like a big dick.
Yeah, a big dick or a Big Mac or Penthouse magazine, for fuck's sake. You have raised the bar too high for me this time. So it's just 3 lonely Pikes. That's all it is. But it is in the swamp It's in the Florida swamp where our alternate reality Florida swamp magic came from. How about that?
That's fair.
I'm going to go 3. Wow. Okay. Well, BJ, it has been a delight having you on here, and we hope you'll come back again.
Oh, totally. This was so much fun.
It's you never know what you're going to get out of a PikeCast, really. You never know. So, will you tell our listeners where they can find you online and anything you want to share that they should check out?
Sure. So I am on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at my name, at BJ Colangelo. And I do co-host a podcast with my wife, Harmony, called This Ends at Prom, where we analyze teen girl movies and media meant for teen girls from my lens of somebody who has a lot of nostalgia for it, and then through the lens of my wife, who is transgender. So she missed all of these growing up. So there's no nostalgia for her. And we get to reassess to see, like, does this hold up? Does this still speak to the women's experience, or is this, trash? A lot of fun there. Love that a lot. And that's also where my Twitter and Instagram is where I post a lot of my articles. I write for Fangoria and Shudder and all sorts of places all over the internet. So you can find all of my work there.
Awesome. Becca, where can we find you online?
Yes, so I have a blog where I mostly review books, and that is at astoldbybex.wordpress.com. I'm also on TikTok at astoldbybex, and I'm on Instagram where I talk about books at readwithbex. And I've recently started also dabbling with TikTok, which I also talk about books, surprise, which is also As Told by Bex.
Okay. TikTok. Now I feel old again. I try.
It's addicting. It's so addicting.
It really is.
I just don't get it yet. And maybe I will. Maybe I will, because I didn't get Twitter when I first started it. Cassie, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ControlAltCassie. It's CTRLALTCASSIE. And then my art shop where I sell workbooks and activity books and coloring books, and then all of my art, is shopletsgetgalactic.com.
And you can find me at coopersbeckett.com and Cooper S. Beckett on all the social medias, including TikTok. But don't be too excited, because I think I've posted one video. It's weird. And at Beckett Arts on social media, you can find my art. Cassie, where can they find the show?
You can follow the PikeCast at the PikeCast. We'd really love it if you'd share your pictures of your books with us. You can use the hashtag #ShowUsYourPike. We'll retweet it. We'll share it to our Instagram stories. We really love having interaction from people, so please keep doing it. And shout out to everybody who shares them already and who participates in our discussions and stuff.
And a shout out to our new fan who listened to all of our episodes on YouTube in 1 week.
Yes.
Wow.
Whoa. That's a lot of us. That's
it is.
A lot
Thank you.
Of us. In fairness, I don't think they got to, they didn't get to Starlight Crystal, which may have broken them, because it broke us.
It broke us. Yeah.
Well, listeners, your homework for next week is 1990s Witch. And thank you.
Oh. I'm sorry, there was a long pause. I got confused.
That was a premature woo there.
I pre-wooed. Whoops.
I wanted to say thank you again to BJ before you woo.
Woo, BJ.
And thank you, listeners. It's been a month since we've recorded. It has not been a month since a new episode for you, but it has been a month since we recorded.
Yeah, so I'm a little off.
Really, Starlight Crystal broke us. And we'll catch you next time on the PikeCast.
Woo! Is that right? Okay.
You survived the night, friends. You can peek out from under your covers and see the first blues of dawn out the window. Thanks for spending the night with the PikeCast, and we hope you'll join us again next time. Until then, Pikers, pleasant dreams. First, I need to make sure I actually rewrote my intro. I did. Excellent. Yeah, it's a
symbol. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm bad at timing.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
You guys continue, and then I'll throw in my comment.
No, we're all waiting for you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. My day is really off right now.
Say your thing. Say your thing.
Okay, I'm going, Cooper. I'm going.
Okay.